Coming up, an update on an investigation of an Iowa City man. And later, Climate Fest brings extra environmental awareness to Iowa City.
Can the Hawks get it done in Happy Valley this Saturday?
The rain looks to cool off Iowa City.
All that and more coming up on this Wednesday morning edition of DITV News.
Don't go anywhere. DITV News starts right now.
Good morning and thank you for tuning in live to DITV and KRUI 89.7 FM.
I'm Max Von Gries.
And I'm Samantha Bielema. And Iowa City arrested the man who was making sexual comments to junior high students last week. On Monday, police charged 29-year-old Branton Kyler Reynolds with 3 counts of enticing a minor under 16 years old for sexual purpose, 3 counts of first-degree harassment, and 1 count of possession of a controlled substance. ICPD conducted extra patrol on Monday where he was identified by victims and surveillance video. And walking inside the studio this morning, I realized why fall is my favorite time of year. Honestly, Max, I'm a big fan of the rain.
Yeah, Samantha, I do love a good rainy day, but I especially love fall because of the pumpkin patch and the caramel apples.
Now that you mention it, those are my favorite too. And with fall starting on Friday, flu season is also quickly approaching. Johnny Valtman is live outside the College of Pharmacy building to tell us more about flu season and today's forecast.
Thanks, Samantha. And while it is cooling off and it's refreshing, that means flu season is right around the corner. I am in front of the University of Iowa's College of Pharmacy, where they have trained over 100 students to be able to administer vaccines throughout local businesses. From the University of Iowa, we're distributing flu shots to recipients.
I feel it's very important to get your flu shot every year just because the flu is always changing, and it's important to get it every year to get the updated version so you can protect yourself and prevent the spread of flu.
Flu shots are available throughout multiple businesses like Walgreens, CVS, and at the University of Iowa Healthcare Center. Everyone over the age of 6 is encouraged to get the shot.
Extremely easy, especially at Hy-Vees. They have walk-in hours, they have scheduled hours, and especially other pharmacies, smaller community pharmacies and independent pharmacies do vaccines too.
Hy-Vee is also offering 20 cents off a gallon for whoever comes in and gets their flu shot. The CDC still recommends getting both a flu shot and the latest COVID booster. And if you are looking to get a flu shot, the weather might be working in your favor. As we're looking at today, we are going to see a high of 81. It is going to be cloudy, and currently it's trying to drizzle on us right now. Tonight we're going to see the low drop down to 60. Clouds will still hang around, but looking ahead at tomorrow, the high is going to be 80, and the sun's going to be able to peek out again, and we will get some sunshine and a mix of clouds. Looking at the week ahead, though, it is going to be one wet week in Iowa City, as there's going to be a lot of rain throughout the forecast, especially throughout the weekend. And this is going to cool off Iowa City, as we're going to see highs drop from the upper 70s down to the lower 70s, and lows go from the upper 50s down to the upper 40s. And so that's all I have for weather. Hopefully it doesn't start raining on me, and I'll send it back to you in the studio. Samantha?
Thanks, Johnny. And University of Iowa hospitals and clinics closed their inpatient eating disorder clinic. Now Iowans have to find alternatives to get the help that they need. Daily Iowan managing digital editor Jamie Martin Trainer is in the newsroom with more.
Thanks, Samantha. In September 2021, the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics announced it was phasing out its inpatient eating disorder clinic, which is the only program of that nature in the state of Iowa. A year after the closure, the impacts of this lacking resource in Iowa are becoming evident. April Bannister and Lexi Olgren are 2 former patients of the inpatient clinic who spoke to the Daily Iowan on their experiences. Both also could not find inpatient treatment in the state of Iowa after the program closed. Bannister had to move to Colorado to attend a clinic that she considered, quote, the highest level of care in this country. That came after Bannister was hospitalized for a week at the University of Iowa for immediate acute needs. This move also caused her to lose her job after violating her contract, which required her to stay in the state. Olgren wasn't able to find inpatient treatment, so she had to find an alternative that was closer. This meant speaking to a psychiatrist, which she said was, quote, not the same. As more time passes, the impacts of this closure will likely continue to be seen. Back to you, Samantha.
Thanks, Jamie. And the Iowa City Council has voted to completely renovate City Park Pool. DITV's Jace Bertrand has more on the community's thoughts on these next steps.
For over 70 years, the Iowa City Park Pool has stood as an icon for community members and students alike. However, when the City Council voted to demolish the current structure and build a new one in its place, the general consensus from the community was that it was time for a change.
The pool being renovated, it's good to get an upgrade. It is 70 years old or so.
Iowa City Director of Parks and Recreation's Julie Seidel Johnson, who shared the city's plans for next steps with the development of this pool.
With the full replacement, there's all sorts of options of what it would look like when it's done. And that's where we're going to go out for public input to gather as much information from the public about what they'd like to see at the pool. We invite just as many people as possible to come in, meet with our consulting team, give their input into what they'd like to see with the pool.
Now, as the city moves forward with their focus groups, I was able to ask community members what they believe should be added to the pool to ensure that everyone is included.
I think the most important thing is that we just have the continuity of having a space for the community where people can come and cool down when it's hot, and families can interact, the kids can learn to swim.
We won't be able to know what this new pool is going to look like until next spring, when the City Council meets to vote on 3 designs created by these focus groups. From Iowa City Park Pool, Jace Bertrand, DITV.
And last night, the Iowa Global Health Network hosted Saket Soni at Prairie Lights, discussing his book, The Great Escape, and the extraordinary stories surrounding it. The novel tells the story of 500 Indian workers in a labor camp and their fight for justice.
Of our time. It's a story about workers' rights. It's a story about migration and climate change, and what will conditions be like for the workers who are responding to climate disasters and rebuilding our communities.
They were living in trailers that were on.
Once they set off,
something life. The story described in The Great Escape led to the creation of the Resilience Force, a nonprofit that advocates for the protection and rights of these workers. And the 4th annual Climate Fest is being celebrated in Iowa City this week. DITV's Kara Doolin has more on the festivities so far.
Iowa City is celebrating its 4th annual Climate Fest to raise awareness about climate change and teach citizens how they can help by making sustainable choices. Behind me is one of 3 bus shelters around Iowa City that local artists have decorated in recognition of the week-long event.
The week kicked off with a walk and roll jam at the downtown interchange, featuring live music and free swag as a way to celebrate Iowa City's new fare-free transit. Passers-by were also encouraged to write thank you notes to their bus drivers.
Our main goal, of course, is connecting with community members, but we really want them to come back with a sense of pride for what their community is doing, not only the city, but other community members and community organizations.
Local businesses are also participating in the Climate Fest to help out the city's initiative. One of these businesses is Big Grove, which will be hosting nonprofits from across the state tonight to help celebrate Iowa's climate successes this year.
We want to leave an environment and leave our community around us better off than it was before. We want to be a leader.
Even more events are coming up this week, including arts and crafts at the Downtown Rec Center, an electric vehicle show, and more.
Now, even if you're unable to attend any of this week's events, there are still plenty of actions that the city recommends people take year-round to help with climate change. Examples include switching out older light bulbs for energy-efficient LEDs, or maybe instead of driving, you could try taking the bus. From the Muscatine and 2nd Avenue bus stop, this is Kara Doolin, DITV.
So Max, the football game this weekend had a good outcome, and I'm not going to lie, I was pretty nervous for the Hawks there at first.
Yeah, Samantha, I was a little worried too, but Kirk and the rest of the Hawks got it done against the Broncos, but now the focus is on the Nittany Lions from Penn State. After coming off of their biggest win of the year last week against Western Michigan, the Hawkeyes quickly transitioned into preparing to go on the road this week and play against Penn State. Road games are difficult, but they're especially difficult in an environment like Happy Valley, where the swarm of the Hawkeyes will be met by a complete whiteout in Beaver Stadium.
Just playing on the road in general, we know it's going to be a hostile environment. It's us versus the world. So the biggest thing for us really is just to make sure we're playing for each other and just stay together as a team. I feel like if we do that, we'll have a pretty good shot. Go in there, get a good win and get out, and keep moving. The season's not over after week 4.
Is certainly nowhere close to being over, but this week's matchup is most likely going to be the hardest game of the season for the Hawkeyes. When you look at their schedule, I'd argue that other than this Penn State road game and maybe the away game at Wisconsin, that the rest of the schedule for the Hawkeyes is pretty favorable. And playing football is hard enough, but wrestling for the Hawks as well, that just sounds insane. DITV's Aiden Werntz has more on a special athlete who's doing just that.
Highly touted freshman recruit Ben Keeter is playing both football and wrestling at the University of Iowa. The best part, he started right here in Iowa City.
We're still coaching kids right now that can look at Ben and say, hey, he grew up where we grew up. You know, it's possible to do what he's doing living in our shoes. I think it gives everybody here almost an edge up on, you know, what it's like to be a great athlete, what it means to do things the right way.
The younger generation, just to see like, oh, he lives here, he goes to the same school I'm going to. That's probably the biggest thing for me, is just showing younger kids that if they just set their mind to something, they can do it.
Keeter not only dominated on the field, but on the mat too, finishing his career with a record of 111-0.
I mean, he's traveling all over the state, all over the country, all over the world, doing all those things, even during, you know, different seasons. But as everybody knew that that's what he was doing, but he still showed up every single day at practice.
His energy and his words, and by the way he played, he never quit, gave everything 110%, and he made sure everyone else did around him.
Despite the challenges of being a multi-sport athlete, Ben is determined to break the barrier.
It's what I told the world I was going to do, so it's just sticking to that and doing that every day.
From the red and black to the black and gold, Ben Keeter will now go from playing on Fridays to Saturdays. From Frank Bates Field at City High School, Aiden Werntz, DITV Sports.
That's a nice catch there, Aiden. And the University of Iowa announced yesterday the plans to build a new gymnastics and spirit squad training facility. The $20 million project will house 21,000 square feet of practice space, including locker rooms and office space. The facility is being paid for by athletics department revenue and private gifts, and is set to be located adjacent to the women's soccer and field hockey facilities on Prairie Meadow Drive. The project is still pending approval by the Board of Regents, but construction is expected to start this fall. And 4 more former Hawkeye athletes have pleaded guilty to underage gambling charges. 3 of the athletes were former football players Jack Johnson, Arlen Bruce IV, and Reggie Bracey, along with former basketball player Aaron Eulis. All 4 will have to pay a fine of $645 as punishment for their involvement, but will face no further punishment. And what can't she do? Caitlin Clark won another award and is the 93rd winner of the AAU James E. Sullivan Award. This award is given to the most outstanding athlete at the collegiate or Olympic level in the United States. Wrestler Spencer Lee was granted the James E. Sullivan Award back in 2018, and Lee and Clark are the only 2 athletes that have been recognized by the Sullivan Award in history. Yeah, Samantha, if Caitlin Clark keeps winning all these trophies, then I think she might solidify her name in Hawkeye sports history forever.
I agree, Max, and that's a nice Drake reference. Thank you. And Iowa City Community Theater has been at the Johnson County Fairgrounds since the early 1960s, but the theater is located 800 feet outside of Iowa City. Now the theater is moving into town, and they are excited for all the benefits of this move.
Being here at this new site technically in Iowa City makes us more visible to the community and makes us eligible for some of the grants and other programs that we were not eligible for in the past.
The new Iowa City Community Theater will be located at Pepperstone Lane in Iowa City, but the theater will continue at their current location for the rest of their show season. And now one of America's favorite foods is being celebrated today, pepperoni pizza. Although originally created to celebrate the Queen of Italy in 1989, it is now noted as one of the most popular types of pizza ever created. And thank you for tuning in to DITV News and listening to KRUI 89.7 FM. For DITV News, I'm Samantha Bielema.
And I'm Max Von Gries. Have a great day.